Oh man, it was definitely a day of swirly emotions and squishes. That song "I'll Be Good" by James Young came on while I was looking for a thumbnail and taking care of a couple of things. And it's funny because it it reminds me of so much of my inner squish that's like just that little girl. It's like, I promise I'll be good. Won't you play with me? Won't you go do this? I really don't want much. And just remembering the times of fun music stuff. It's bittersweet, you know, at least this moment. In any case, I somehow am going to mishmash together a couple of years of experience and in the story of us, and I decided I'm gonna leave this one as a standalone, and if there are some that I missed or I want to add to it, I'll just make it part two or something like that. Because it feels like there's no way that I could put this all into one thing, but there are certain elements of it that are on my mind. And since I know many of you keep asking me to share my story, or our story, why not? Now, this was our band. And for me, this was definitely total like dream thing to have happen. Oh, that's funny. There's a car towing a Corvette too, which is ironically my dream car. Although not that year. That year was like the year that just passed by was like 2000s. Mine would be a 1969 Mako Shark Concept 2 Corvette. Very specific. They only made a select number of them and they are freaking amazing. Anyways, putting a band together was definitely like I'd always wanted to do that growing up. But one, I was an only child, so I didn't have any siblings to bother into it. Two, there wasn't really. I mean, music was around a lot. I was really lucky to have music around a lot, and I because I grew up with my mom, sort of my dad, and my mom's two sisters. There was different genres of music, so everything from the crooners, Doris Day, old 40s music, and well, yeah, and 50s rock a little bit, and definitely lots of Elvis and Dolly Parton. And then my aunts were kind of a mixture. They were mostly like hippie music and 60s, 70s rock and stuff. Occasionally some disco, but they were very much against disco, so it was mostly rock. Um, and then, I was an 80s baby, and so I had, I was born in the 80s, so I was an 80s baby, but I really got like music for me was I had all those things, but when I was old enough to recognize modern music, it was 90s music, and I feel really blessed to have been around in that time for music. It was really good, really good decade for music. Um, in any case, I'd always wanted to do it, but the cooperative components to put together a band was not available to me as a young, wickedly divine feminine. So when our when some jam sessions that were just for fun between me, my DM, and a mutual friend at the time, um, when we started having fun with that, I really was like, "You want to see where we can take this?" Right? And that's part of my personality thing is, hey, we're having fun with this. Do you want to do more? Like, I've always had kind of a insatiable need to keep growing with it. Like yeah, this is fun, but look, you want to see how it's yeah, Jenga is a fun game on its own, but have you ever used two Jenga towers at once? Like something crazy like that. I've never actually done that, but that's the kind of ideas that come into my head. Hey, if this is fun, I bet it'd be really fun if we added this to it. Um, and they were up for it. And I mean, in my mind, I assumed that like once the momentum got going, that the two of them would definitely like jump on board with promotional stuff and things like that. I was not correct in that prediction there so much, but um, I had fun learning about the process of how do you create a band enough to well I feel weird about saying it. Creating a band isn't hard. Anybody could say we're a band and put a name on it, and even if they don't play, it's a band. But like to put together songs, create kind of an album. I already knew about music production and that element and that little journey in my life, which I'll have to tell in a different video, also showed me how do you get music onto a CD, and then how do you get that CD distributed, and how do you hook up with record labels and things like that. So I already had a little basis of understanding about how you get the information you need. I really had no basis for how do you book a band? How do you find a venue? How do you get people to come to your show? I didn't have any of those elements, but I had enough from the experience of it was Nothing But Platinum, and which then I used that same Nothing But Platinum music, and I just pulled that over and hooked it in and turned it into Nothing But Platinum events, which I figured could encompass both. And I turned it into, I'd already had a business license for that from the studio that I did beforehand. And so to take that and then just move it, I was like, you know what? What's wrong with Nothing But Platinum events? And it was really easily shortened to NBP. So I just pulled that over and I started, I started watching what my DM's musician friends were doing. At the time, it was MySpace that everybody was using. And you know, it's funny. I really miss the old MySpace, like not the first version, but like the second or third, especially when you could upload your own music onto it, and when it was really starting to become a platform for musicians and stuff. And this was like pre Facebook, and YouTube was around, but it wasn't really what it is now. And so I started paying attention to that, to what his musician friends were doing, and then from there I learned about other musicians, and then because YouTube was around, I could learn a little bit from those who were on there, and I started researching, going, how do you do this? How do you, who do you talk to? Because like I said, I didn't have the experience for how to I didn't know what I needed to know at the time, but I knew that much, and I'd been enough into manifestation and like personal development stuff that I knew all I needed to know was that there were things I didn't know that I needed to know. and and from there it wasn't that scary to go, okay, I'm going to talk to that person. I'm going to see what they know. If they know something good, I can work with what little or a lot that they know. And then from there I can figure out, okay, so now I know about this part. I can talk to that person and learn about that. And it was really fun learning about that in between all the jam sessions that we'd had just for fun, and then we'd had, oh gosh, at least 8 or 9 songs by then that we were already pretty, it's funny to say pretty good at. We were, I won't I feel like we were good, but we weren't good either. And part of it was we weren't trying to be good. It was something that we did for fun, and that's part of why I liked calling the band Call Me Crazy. And through the time that we'd played together, I mean, our guitarist was still mostly like power chords and hard rock, metal, and sometimes some rock ballads, that kind of stuff. He really grew in that. It was nice to see. And I think I grew the most because I started with the least amount of like actual training on any stringed instruments. I knew keyboard reasonably enough. Like I said in a former video, I also knew how to create music digitally, so I understood about melodies and hooks and bridges and bars and things like that. I also understood timing, but that doesn't mean I was good at it. Like my brand of ADHD autism, timing still, I can do it now, but it still kind of eludes me. I have to think about it in a different way than a lot of people think about it. Um, but we'd had enough songs together, and it was great. One of my favorite memories. I got us into a place called the Comet, and it was in Seattle. I don't know if it's still there. It used to be a really iconic bar down there, and we were we were gonna play there. I'm pretty sure it was at the Comet. Let's see. We played at the Comet. We played at El Corazon. We played. Oh, there's a bunch of little bars I know we played at, but I don't recall all the names of them. And there was a lot of times that my DM would do shows with his friend in his band, which I'm not sure if he wants me to mention, so I'm gonna keep that there. But if I can, I will, because that friend actually has a different band now, and he's doing really well with his music. It's really good. It's good to see when you see friends that are successful based on their art and their music and things like that. And I'm happy to shout folks out for that. In any case, there's a lot of mixture in my mind. Like, I know the Blue Moon was one that my DM did, but there was the High Dive, and I can't remember if we also did the High Dive. And I kind of did a little bit of coattail writing for a minute in terms of like, well, not coattail writing, I suppose not. Well, I started out um, asking my DM's friends' bands if they wanted to do shows at venues that I had found that were willing to take our band, but one, we didn't really have a base. We didn't have a fan base at the time. Um, and I was trying to figure out what I didn't know that I needed to know about that. And also there was plenty of venues that were like, yeah, we're happy to give you a spot, but you're a new band, we don't really know you, you don't have a big fan base, so can you bring some other bands with you? And most of the time they didn't even care if those bands had fan bases either. Like, they were fine if they were completely new bands, but they didn't want to have to do the work. And if I mean, it made sense to me. It's like, yeah, okay, we're newer, you don't know if we're great or we suck or whatever. I'll do a little more legwork. And then after that, when I didn't want to overuse, especially my DM's friends' bands. That seemed really rude and inappropriate. And so Craigslist had, it was a really big thing at the time, and it was growing in popularity. And they had, well, actually, did they have music? I think it was before the musicians section. But that came around later, and so I started looking for like other bands and artists that would want to come out and play with us. And artists, I think I could probably mention him. Daniel Adams was one of my favorites. I should look him up. I don't know if he's still up there. I remember some other bands like there's the Woodsmen, and they were really cool. They had they did some stuff with trombones. There was, oh, what was the name of the band? There were so many bands. I'm gonna have to. I should go back through and look through my old NBP emails, and at some point go in and just give a shout out to all the bands I got to work with. Most of them were on our level, like they were kind of new. But when I really started getting into it, especially, I was really sad and disappointed when my DM and the mutual friend did not really want to put in equal effort into Call Me Crazy's fame. But I was like, I was having so much fun with booking the bands and going out doing the music and emceeing a show and running the events. And I did a different video about having, like, I got my DM into being like a sound guy and stuff for it, which was really really great. And so I ran with that. But what was great was when we would do shows and we would bring our band up there. And so, oh, that's what it was. Thank you for bringing that back. I think it was at the comment. I want to say it was at the comment. We No, you know what? That's what it was. I think it happened twice, at the Comet and at Studio 7, which was another kind of interesting place that we tried to play at a few times. We tried to do a battle of the bands, but it turned out to be it wasn't an actual battle of the bands. When you see battle of the bands stuff that comes up these days, it's more of a kind of an MLM sort of thing to like get you to sell tickets to bring back in a certain amount. I'm not saying it's bad. The reality of it is that's what it is. That's not what Battle of the Bands used to be. So when I saw it at first and we were going to do it, we thought, yes, this might be a way for us to build up and get some new fans. And it kind of did, but because it wasn't old school Battle of the Bands, didn't work. But we had a couple of times where some other musicians and some people watching us that, like, how did they say it? We were something like we were the most accomplished band at messing up and not letting it stop us that they'd ever seen. It was a very interesting thing to be told, and we knew that it was true in that because we'd had plenty of practice sessions where, yeah, like, we'd be playing, everything be good, and somebody would completely screw it up. And I was always saying, it doesn't matter, just pop back in when you can. Like, just if you fuck up, then it's the other two's job to try to carry it as much as possible. Worst case scenario, we all screw it up, and if the song falls apart, that's okay. We could start it over, not a big deal. And I think because that energy was there, it just wasn't, for one thing, like, my DM was the only one who's really, really accomplished musician on any instrument. But playing with us two definitely challenged him enough that even he could screw it up here and there. And so we all were just comfortable with, oh well, you screwed it up, big deal. Keep going. It's fun. And so that happened a couple of times on stage to where we would be playing a song or singing a song or doing something, and one of us would trip up, but the other two would keep it going. And I mean, we're all in like that nervous on stage mode anyways, so you're trying your hardest not to screw it up yourself. If someone else screws it up, it's actually it can be easy to mess it up too, but it's actually easier to keep going because you were already more focused on just don't let me be the one to screw it up, that you can keep it going. And when someone else messes it up, it actually lightens it up. Like, okay, we got the screw up out of the way and keep going. But definitely, hands down, one of my favorite call me crazy memory mashes is being told that, like, that we were really good at screwing up, like that we could screw up and people it could be noticeable, but it didn't stop us. We didn't stop doing it. I'm thinking there's sometimes we did the Jewel Box Theater, the Rendezvous Jewel Box Theater in Seattle was really cool to do too, and to work with. I did a number of bands in there of that. And I think what I loved most with with our band, with Call Me Crazy, was that we had so much fun with it. And the particular friend too, like we all had kind of a banter and a repertoire, and we could even argue about things and go along with it. It never got too far or too big, and it was an interesting synergy, and I very much miss it. Even though we had our we had our we had some moments that were not uber fun, definitely band related type agree to disagree sort of things. But for the most part, it was just fun. Like we weren't doing it. I think we all had this kind of, we would like to be big rock stars, but I don't think any of us assumed that that particular band would take us there. But it was fun, and to see like our guitarist grow, and to see my DM grow, and he really wanted to do more drums in bands. A lot of times he'd been guitar because he's so accomplished at guitar, and he really wanted to put a lot more focus into his drumming because he really liked drumming. And I don't even know what I became. I really enjoyed getting into funk bass because it was really interesting to learn. It's not hard, but it's not easy either. And I preferred like punk, especially like 90s alternative punk, to like metal and things like that. And so and my DM did more of a jazz drum sort of thing, but like we all kind of gave a little towards the other person's, and held our ground in some other ways. So we were kind of an interesting fusion. I know that I thought that there was still some music on MySpace, but I haven't been able to access the profile in a while. I know that we have music that's still up on our stage. Feel free to go check it out. It's on, under Call Me Crazy, and there's a picture on it of this drawing that I did for us of a mascot called Kink the Cat, and he just looks like this scraggly gray and white cat with a red like punk poof on there. And I'm gonna laugh if I get like a bunch of views on there. I do go and check on it every once in a while. In any case, there was a lot of really fun memories with Call Me Crazy. I can remember a time, I think it was a different time we played at the Comet when um, a patron of the bar who'd had a little much to drink came up and decided to try to shake our guitarist's hand while we were in the middle of playing a song, and it was quite impressive to watch him figure out how and when to release the guitar for a moment to shake the guy's hand so he would go sit down and stop standing in front of him. And there was other times, I think it was one of the Battle of the Bands ones where I even started like doing a little face painting because I did a lot of the vocals in there, and a lot of our songs were just they were about fun, and especially when I realized that like taking the lead was kind of a role that, like, if I was going to fit between the two of them, that was a role to fit in there. And so I started writing songs that, I mean, they fit with how I felt in playing music with the two of them, which is very much embrace the absurd kind of vibe. And like I wrote a song called Capricorn, and it's about like, oh, the kind of conceited image that sometimes you get of a Capricorn because I'm a Capricorn. I think there was a line in it where I said, oh, was everybody's just jealous because they just want to be like me? And it was really, it was silly. It's up there too. But it was fun to do. And we did some songs. I wrote some songs about about love, but they were very cheesy. And we tried out so many different genres. One of our most popular ones for the longest time, when MySpace was, it still had our stuff up there, was called the 1 Minute Quickie. And I was learning how to play funk bass. And I'd always wanted to be able to like kind of freestyle some stuff, but I wasn't good at it. And I just thought, you know what, who cares if I'm good at it or not? So I wrote my really horrible white version of rap, but it wasn't rap. It was like a funk spoken word fusion thing. And it was just really fun, but it was under a minute. And I was kind of making fun of that part of us that is afraid to dance or to sing or to rap or to write or to be seen, when really the people, like I learned that the people who get out on the dance floor and look like they can dance the best, they really, they they're just brave enough to know that nobody is really actually doing anything but moving their bodies. Like, I don't care what you want to call the dance, waltz, foxtrot, dabs, whatever. It's just moving your body in a weird way that fits with the rhythm of the music. If you break it down, that's all dancing is. And it's the same thing with anything else in terms of success. Like, the people that get it are usually not the ones who had the most training or talent or like background to do it. And what most people realize is it's just step by step by step. That's all it is. And I learned a lot. I confirmed a lot of that for myself in the Call Me Crazy experience, in writing the music, putting the songs together, working with other people in it, learning to go out into the wilds of Seattle's music industry in a whole different way than I'd ever been in there before. And and I tell you what, no matter what happened with it, or if it ever comes about again, like there's always going to be that music that we wrote, and those memories and pictures, and just, it's great too because our oldest son got to grow up in it. There was a song that I did called Gypsy where it was about my DM. I'm sure that he knew it was in a lot of ways, but it was about him like becoming a big, a big rock star, like he'd always wanted to be. And so our oldest son, when he was little, he called it the Big Rock Star song. And he used to he used to ask me and my DM, like, why isn't your song on the radio? It's really good. It gets on there. And because part of the lyrics had said, like, cause I'm gonna be a big rock star, and if you don't believe, well, that's okay. I'll be the first to say I told you so. Which, now I'm thinking about it, is it's a sync. So I'm gonna leave this video here, and I think if more CMC memories come up, I will share them separately so that these videos are nice and nicely proportioned. Thank you so much for those of you who decided to watch, and I'll see you in the next video.